happened, but I'm back. I don't know. I guess it's just the drama got to this situation. Any case, yeah. So you can see what happened. Hans wins on move two. Carlsen resigns. C4 too powerful. Explosive, you'd say. C4 explosive, just as the news over here. Magnus does not want to play, doesn't want to go on a fight, and refuses to play. Basically, I guess a second time, almost like a protest non-play. Now, all we know beforehand is the fact that there was none, I mean none, of this information that we knew. We couldn't tell if they're going to play a real game or if straight up they are just going to go for this, go for something dramatic. Hans was ready to play. He actually is very consistent what he has been talking about. He's been saying, I am here to play. You can strip search me. You can take away my rights. Whatever. I'm here to play the game. I do not care. So he goes for d4, c4. He is ready to play. Carlsen, on the other hand, actually shows the message, and this is the message. So before you could say, well, Carlsen was more of, okay, had a reason why he didn't go there and why he actually didn't show up in the Sinkfield Cup. Now it is sort of blatantly obvious he feels that something's up with Hans Niemann. Now we don't know what, because he didn't state any of that. He didn't say anything. But he definitely actually suspects something, I guess. Because otherwise, why would you resign on move two? Now, there are still running hypotheses. Because if you've ever seen Carlsen, Carlsen is very emotional, but he has a sense of humor. He knows what's going on around here. He knows what's up. He knows for sure that people are watching and they had an anticipation. So, yes, I think this has to do with the ongoing drama, but it also could be playing his cards right and just trolling everyone a second time. I wouldn't be shocked at all. That is clearly Magnus Carlsen. He could pull this as a prank too. Now, unfortunately, I did not see what he did there. I don't know and why he did that. One of the things that is well worth a watch is his face. It is possible he pulls a troll on everybody with this forfeit. It's also possible that he actually just means it as a statement. So this is better than a Mourinho meme, but not much. Better because we've seen him sort of do gestures like this. He did this against Ding Liren, if you know, in the Magnus Cup before. Like that happened. That literally happened before. This needs to be legally solved, so it is more of a punishment. Like the organizers may decide to punish him. In fact, Carlsen and Hans refused to commentate on the topic, but according to their contracts, they are required to give interviews. So that's one of those things that might be something they have to deal with. Yeah, that's one of those deals. What's happening? We don't know for sure. It's just crazy. Just craziness. Hello, Delp. Yeah, so they started out the game. Hans, as far as I saw, was getting into the motions, getting ready for this matchup, getting ready to play Magnus Carlsen. But, so Carlsen sort of led him on with the move knight f6, c4, and then he resigned. So I guess that's also a bit of gamesmanship. because I think he made Hans believe he's going to have a match, but it turns out that he didn't want a match after all and resigns on move 2. So there was a little bit of psychological there. I think Carlsen did that intentionally. And of course, c4 was kind of explosive here, kind of sussy, and I guess Carlsen just didn't want to face this. But all joking aside, this is the main opening of the closed systems. There's nothing new. There's nothing new that would surprise Magnus. I think we're going to know a bit more, or maybe he's trying to bait Hans Niemann. Is he trying to bait Hans Niemann? What do you guys think? Let me read some chats here. What do you think about Feingold's take on Magnus forfeiting in St. Louis? Even if he thinks Hans is cheating, forfeiting is just a shitty move in a Swiss. So I completely disagree with Ben Feingold. There are plenty of people forfeiting in round robins, and this is not as bad, meaning Magnus forfeiting in that round robin isn't as bad as forfeiting in a round robin when they're trying to get a Grandmaster title. And there are plenty of Grandmasters and other people there who actually do that in a round robin and not a Swiss. So, and I'm not saying he did the right thing. All I'm saying that it isn't as bad of a thing as leaving mid-tournament where they're trying to become a Grandmaster. Here already everyone's a Grandmaster. They're trying to become a champion or win the event. So I disagree there. And there are plenty of other Grandmasters who have done something similar and something that is much worse. So I don't think that it's exactly as bad. And Hema, thank you for the follow. So I don't think it is unusual. It happened before, and I don't think that you can state that it was the worst thing that could happen. It wasn't good. I'm not saying it was good, but for sure not. I believe you should always play like it's a normal chess game. Whether you think your opponent is doing something against fair play, you should always play your chess the best you can. And if it's something that's against the fair play, well, so may be. But sometimes you are the one defeating yourself whenever you're just think about allegations. It's self-defeating. Now that could be the other reason Carlsen gave up and resigned, because he just can't play in this mindset and he's not even trying to. Magnus not saying anything is annoying. Well, it's his choice. He is just not saying anything, but we might hear something from Hans. But I don't know for sure. Alright, so we can continue with this talk. We are going to take a look at the Ivanchuk game because we don't want to steal the show. It's exciting and it's very interesting. This is the drama sort of snowballing. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to share it. But meanwhile, we are going to take a look at the game between Ivanchuk and Christopher Yu. Ivanchuk is, of course, the other hero of this event. Actually, the hero of the event. He is 53-year-old, hailing from Ukraine, and he is on third place before this game even finished. Actually, fourth and fifth. But if he wins this, he is going to catapult up there. So let's take a look. So let's start from the beginning. Vasily Ivanchuk actually defeated plenty of the youth. And most of them are in their early teens or mid-20s. And that's quite something from great Vasil, who has been a legend of its own, has been a super grandmaster since 1988. b4, b5, Christopher Yu is an up-and-coming talent, actually a Shanklin pupil, of course the US champion. They are facing off in the Open Spanish, and if anything, Ivanchuk knows them all. He knows them all. He is well versed here. He goes bishop e3, not the most topical. c3, knight d2, and he is just making sure this rook eventually gets involved in the game. Takes, bishop g5, so he's not really worried for that bishop. He's saying the d5 pawn is going to be a target, and your bishop is just bad. Castles, rook d8, bishop c2. Not if you don't want it. You are not going to get it. Bishop g4, trying to undermine the e5 pawn. This game is about that. It's all about the pressure in these type of positions over here. Pressure on the f3 knight. So here white could consider something like knight d4 if not for this idea of bishop d1. Therefore the aggressive pin. So bishop takes e7, queen takes e7. Maybe he could even get away with doubling the pawns. Doesn't want that, goes for queen f4. It could be actually the same idea. He might allow Christopher to capture, and double the pawns. But in return, he's going to get a ton of play there. Just a ton of play. Let me see, is there any news? So I'll just go back for a second. Nope, it still seems to be the same thing. Nothing new on this side of the board. So let's go back. The Ivanchuk game. So yeah, for now, we don't know anything. Nothing is new. We may get some tweets later on. And we'll probably be able to decipher more. But for now, all we know that Magnus is just not willing to play Hans. That seems to be a clear message. The rest is, again, up for speculations. But we kind of suspect that him quitting actually was not for any other reason. That is something that we can tell for sure. So queen f4, takes, bishop takes, g takes, the pawn is running. So I'm not sure that this is necessarily great for Vasil, but Vasil is a very good practical player and gets into positions where he can press his young opponent. So takes, then there's bishop takes, queen takes. And white is a little bit better because he has an anchor on e5. It's a strong pawn, while Christopher has a knight on e5, which is somewhat stranded. For that very reason, it may make sense to bring it back home. Maybe even knight c6, so you'll be able to capture back with the knight. For sure, that is a possibility and is a way to play there. For sure, one way to play. Knight c6, or you could trade, takes. I wonder if you can go for f6, but your king might be in danger. Because I can set up shop on h4 and put pressure on your h7 pawn. Which by all means is dangerous play. Like extremely dangerous. For sure is one way to play. He goes for f6, logical. He doesn't even let this move happen. e6 then takes, that doesn't really do too much. So instead of doing that, where I would have queen h4, f6 now stops that idea. So e takes, bishop takes. He's trying to put pressure on the queen and the knight simultaneously. f6 looks scary, but it makes a lot of sense. So takes, bishop takes. Takes, bishop takes. See, a ton of pressure there. So takes, takes. Black is going to threaten to take. Takes, 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 takes. Queen g3. You will have knight e5 jumps as the e5 pawn leaves the board. That is sort of an interesting proposition by Christopher. Can you go bishop h4? Not really, because everything just opens and blasts open in your face. That's for sure a problem. Now, Vasil is going to play Carlsen later, so that's going to be a crucial matchup too. So, yeah, that is something to be on the lookout for. Wow. But Vasil actually has been rocking the boat and just upsetting all the youth. And if not for one game, he would have gone 100% in the first day. But of course, it's all about qualifying. This means actually Hans is on a qualifying position. Top 8 qualifies. Currently the standings, Hans is first with 12 points. Eric Geisy second. Carlsen on 11th, third place. But of course, there are plenty of other games going on. Prague is on 10. Ivanchuk on 10 and still playing. And Kamer lower down on 8 points. Lavon on 8. So it's almost a guarantee if Ivanchuk keeps on rolling that the 50-year-old genius is going to make it for the playoffs. And we may actually see some playoff matches. We may even get a playoff between Hans and Magnus Carlsen. But we'll see. Who are you rooting for in this tournament? I am absolutely rooting for the legendary Vasil Ivanchuk. He goes for e6. e6. Which is sort of a shocking move. As you may see. F takes, then of course queen takes. F takes, queen takes. You could also take there and take the queen. Bishop takes. Queen h4. And the move he missed is bishop to f5. Whoa, that's pretty tragic. Pretty tragic. So I think he calculated everything, but he missed one little move. Because here, he could potentially take there. Whoa. So drama all over the place. e6, well, it is like a gamble move. But also I think he believes that he has this attack. However, yep, he finds it. Christopher is unafraid, and that's actually the new gen. They're unafraid of their opponents. And I believe he wanted queen h4. And after g6, there could be some play. Could also sacrifice. However, there's the simple bishop to f5, and that is just a simple pawn. This is no good. That is correct. And indeed, he goes for it, but I think he just misses bishop f5. Now, this is one of those things I always talk about. You have a bad tournament, you miscalculate, be very careful with your move choices. And Ivanchuk, I think, just doesn't hold back. And this might be costly and actually dangerous for his standing. Yep, this is just a clear pawn. And Christopher, you is clearly having an advantage. Decisive, I mean, that'd be early to say. I mean, there's some weaknesses in his camp, but let's see how this actually pans out. Let's see how this works. Yeah. So yeah, this is looking bad for Ivanchuk. He's down a pawn. He's going to fight on, but let's see how he does it. How Christopher does the advantage. Let's see how that works out. Very curious, honestly. It's not like downright lost. Black still has to prove and just show some technique. So let's have a look. Let's see how that's done. Queen g4, he's trying to escape to an ending. Trades. And Christopher, of course, is still winning, but whenever you start pushing the pawn, it becomes a weakness, and it's possible to go after that weakness in that case. Did Magnus lose rating? I don't believe these are rated games. I believe these are all online games with no rating. So I don't think he lost any rating on that. Now, Ivanchuk is a well-known time trouble addict. It is a likelihood that he is going to be low on time while playing. So, big news and big drama. We might have Magnus lose on move 2. And we may actually have a huge upset with Christopher Yu beating Vasily Ivanchuk. 6. Now, it makes a lot of sense to bring your king. It's an ending, so both sides should aim to activate those pieces. You could also go after the g4 pawn, or just play on the side where you're strongest, and I guess that's what Christopher is going to do. Going for those trades and going after the g pawn, which of course is super duper important. If you want to win a chess game, you got to create weaknesses. So king f7, rook d8, something I'd expect. Yeah, rook d8, very normal move. And I think Christopher is spending a bit too much time. And Ivanchuk does the right thing of trying to disturb the equilibrium. Yes, exactly. Always bring your king in. There. And some trades, these pawns can become weak. The knight is also a little bit loose. Of course, it's not a pawn, but it can become loose if somehow Ivanchuk, Big Chucky, could go after the a pawn via rook e6. So something like rook e2, rook de1 would make a ton of sense. Or something like knight g5 and such. That would make sense as well. Yeah, GF, not necessarily a huge fan, but he just wants to avoid counterplay. Not at all a bad idea. You just want to control him. Control him as much as possible. Like, you want to make sure you can't actually infiltrate. But, I mean, this allows knight h4, knight f5. So whenever you get in a bad position, you always want to jump around. So just to make the conversion much more difficult. Knight h4, knight f5, that's what I would expect. Unless he just gets too down on himself, which you shouldn't. It's just a single pawn. So there is still some hope to save a position. I would presume you could go knight h4, knight f5, or king f1, maybe even g3, and that's also an idea. Just go after the h pawn. Here, king g2, go rook h1, double up on the weakness. So your goal in any position, may it be a pleasant advantage or not doesn't really matter. What you need to do is just to clamp on your opponent's weaknesses. That's also the case here. King f1. I don't like that move. It doesn't really do that much. I believe these moves would make more sense. d4 is an idea. You could also go b4. And after the trades, you will get a passed pawn that could roll down the board. Of course, is a way to play. It's definitely one way to play. b4 is something to do, or you could even go a5 and b4 if you're a little bit more greedy, but that's not at all bad. Very logical way of playing. You want to do those trades and actually create a pawn, a good old passer over there. So mistakes happen, but actually winning them, they're not easy. I'm still curious how Christopher is going to deal with this. As I'm also curious how everyone is going to deal with the situation with Carlsen quitting. So if you just joined, yeah, Carlsen just quit the game on move 2, and we don't know what this will mean. And but for one thing, we know this means that he exactly knew why he quit in the Sinkfield Cup. That's for a fact. That's for sure. It could be also a troll because he knows that everyone's interested. It could be a troll and he just wanted to create more confusion. a5 and again resigns. Wow, what's with the resigns these days? Wow. Ivanchuk just resigns. Incredible. So Christopher takes down Ivanchuk. Hans wins by default against Magnus Carlsen. Wow. Alright, so last and final takes, and hope you enjoy it, and you can comment on it, comment on YouTube as well. So final takes, big win for Christopher Yu. I still hope Ivanchuk can make it. He's very close. He is in the bubble over there to make it to top 8. First takes, I think that quitting sometimes happens. It's not the greatest of things. So in that sense, I agree with Ben. Can there be anything strange over the board? Naroditsky, I think, is wrong there. I think that's impossible. I mean, they moved to a different area. There is no balcony around. So that's just out of the sorts. And it may have happened previously, or it could have been a possibility in the past, but not in this case, not in this event. So that's unlikely. I don't think so. So we kind of know what Magnus thinks. It could still be a troll, but we don't know for a fact. But of course, it is a clear message. It is a clear message. It could still be a troll, though, because he knows what's going on in the big, wide world. But on the other hand, you don't resign on move 2. There was no reason to do that, and it sort of puts Hans in a loop. So there's a lot more to follow there. Danya theorized that you could use the balcony, but that's not possible. That's just not possible because the playing area has just moved. So that's just not true. And of course, I responded in a previous video on MVP fan, and I gave my take of what I believe of the Charlotte games. And, take a look. And with that, I hope you had a good viewing. And feel free to sub, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this one. So take care, y'all. And the drama just never ends. It keeps giving.